solid open. Solid open to end a solid DCI season. And man, honestly, there wasn't much question about the top in Drum World, but it was kind of a battlefield everywhere else below that in the scores.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of mix up from night to night. Groups kind of moving around up and down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even below that, all the way, pretty much all the way down to 13th. So
And
it was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, to me,
And on a non-competitive aspect, it was also fun to watch. Just everybody throwing down.
Oh yeah, it was a very, very strong percussion year across the board. The top half of the top 12, the bottom half, even some groups that weren't in that top 12 rankings had solid seasons that they'll hopefully be able to build on in the coming years. But before we get into all that, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Fantini, and with me as always is
Evan Worrell.
And if you're on podcast services, head over to YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel. Hit the join button if you want to support us financially, or you can head to patreon.com if you'd like to give more than 99 cents a month. But we just appreciate the viewership as always, and we met a bunch of you in Indianapolis, which is always a good time. But Facebook, Instagram, never miss an update. We're doing shorts, reels, posted a few lot videos recently that I just happened to be in a good spot to take. The Cavies videos actually... I like that Cavies video I got's pretty cool. I'm a big fan. I like that video.
We'll talk about why it's not 100% lined up here in a little bit.
We'll explain that here in a second. But
also, welcome to all the recently aged out folks who have crossed over. I know some people probably still have some winners left, some bonus winners, that sort of thing in the drum world, winter guard world. But those of you who aged out of DCI, congrats on a season, and welcome.
Strong drum corps season. Yeah, strong drum corps season. I know we were waiting very on our seat's edge every night waiting for recaps to come out. Like refreshing phones, whether it was in the hotel room, at the bar, wherever we were hanging out at. It was because we knew, man, I love seeing all the movement night to night because it's the show of the night. It's whatever read that judge gets. And they all made their own calls. And as we go over, when we get into the spreadsheet and the updated finishings, they all made their own calls. And it was very, very interesting. Some expected things happened and some unexpected things happened.
It's always funny. I have a couple people I joke with that when the website's timing out or just maxed out capacity and it goes down, the server's down. I was like, DCI server's down. The jig is up. Collusion.
Yeah. They're fixing the numbers right now.
We're fixing it. The fix is in.
All right, so I guess, what did you think of it? We were there. We got there about noon on Friday. I guess we'll just talk about the weekend in general first. Then when we get into the actual how things played out, we'll talk about the individual groups and what we thought seeing them in person and all that good stuff. But we got there Friday afternoon around afternoon at around noon. That's a tongue twister a little bit. We just met up with some friends, hung out, and then went and watched lots. We watched lots both days.
We made the decision not to go inside for a couple reasons. One, I just don't think there's a real big substitution for getting up close and personal with those drum lines and how intimate that is, and just that feeling you get from the intensity coming off the players and the musicians and the drums and stuff. Also, secondly, unless you get really good seats in Lucas Oil in the middle,
where I was going to go.
To me, it just sounds awful.
It's hard to read it
from a drum perspective, hearing clarity, hearing what's good, hearing any sort of nuance at all. And the tickets are kind of expensive these days.
We were shocked when we did look at tickets for Saturday. We're like, holy
had
crap.
Tickets going for $700 or something. I was like, what
just
is
nuts.
Just nuts. I'll have to figure something else out. But we just wanted to hang out in the lots and check everything out and really just kind of get in there.
Yeah, we got a chance to see for sure the entirety of the top 6 right in front of them. We didn't
got to see a little bit of Colts. Got to
Blue
see
Stars.
Some Blue Stars.
Didn't catch Troopers, which was the one I was sad. Our schedule for the days never lined up to be there. We almost caught them on Friday. We thought we were going to make it. We were planning to get there from the restaurant for lunch, to catch them playing Book. And I guess they got done early based on when we thought they would be done, and they were leaving as we were walking up. So that kind of sucked. But
also didn't help that they didn't help either one of them. They were both kind of near the Cavaliers ish. and we made a point to make sure we saw those lots. So.
Yes, we were not. We know we have too many friends. Everyone's going to say bias, but yeah, look at the scores. Cavaliers were good. So. Objectively, they were good. We have friends teaching there. We know a lot of people marching. A lot of ex members are in that group. So we wanted to make sure we caught it in person, experienced it. But again, we caught all the top groups.
All 3 nights without being good. Bluecoats didn't even. They only won 1 night last year. So
yeah. So when a group wins all 3, it's something worth seeing more than once if you can. So, I have something about the lot, and I wanted to make sure I brought this up. There were a lot of groups that I watched, and you get lot crowds. You wanted the crowd as a member, but if you're an alumni or like a tech, one of like the 10 techs, if it didn't just rain, if you're in the front, sit down. Come on, down in front. I mean, I walked up to so many groups where it was a wall of alumni and techs just between the drum line and the massive crowd behind it, and it's like,
yeah, like I get that they want to be up there, like it's their baby. They've been in the grind, in the trenches all summer, with it. But like, I want to see it too. Sit down.
Yeah,
I sat down when I was in the front.
Not so much the techs, but really like all the alumni. It's awesome you come back to watch your group you were in, but it's down in front. You still get a great experience whether you're standing or sitting. If you're in the front, even if you're not a tech or an alumni,
please the people.
If you're just a fan, if you're in the front, sit down. Unless it's like super wet, which it really wasn't on Friday at all. And then Saturday it was for like a little bit when it rained for 10 minutes, which kind of screwed Cavi's lot. But yeah, that's my gripe. That was my one gripe for the lots. But that's been a thing for years if you've been to a lot of the finals lots.
But
what was that's the next thing we'll point out. What was somebody in a comment, and I can't remember the username who pointed this out on the Cavi's lot video.
I might have it still, the screenshot of it. Hold on, let me find it.
So somebody commented on the Cavi's finals lot that actually might be the only video up from the actual finals day lot because they had to go.
It was kind of a cluster, yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing was a cluster. They quickly sandwiched under 2 pine trees to try to stay dry, to finish up the lot and play book. And so I was like, I'm going to make sure I get this on video because I don't see any of the like typical drumline archives was set up in the original arc. The rain screwed him. Like other people that would have been filming of the actual lot video channels, I don't think got the opportunity to. I could be wrong. They might have done some makeshift stuff I didn't notice. But they had to quickly set up the sandwich under the tree and just start playing. So
I can't find the comment now, but someone pointed out it was just coincidence that every Yamaha Fred Sanford winner in the past 10 years has won on the classic maple finish. Cadets in 2013, Bluecoats last year, and then Cavaliers this year. Just it's kind of funny.
Drum finish is it. That's what it is. It's the magic drum finish. But
yeah.
It's funny when you find little random facts like that. And I would never have thought about that or looked into it. So thank you, whoever let us know about that.
And I believe that was the Cavaliers' 7th drum trophy. I looked it up earlier in my spreadsheet. So if we count 2003, 2011, 2000, 1999, 1995, 92, and then 91, where I believe there was a tie between SCV, Star, and Cavs. So it's like a 3-way tie.
All right. So before we get into these scores, the lot video. The video we have up, a few people dropped comments about it. So here's
re-upload it. Well.
Huh? Well, we
like,
will
re-upload it.
I will.
Like, that's not what it is.
I will re-upload it, but it's not the upload that the problem is. So here's what happened. That audio with that video is not finals day audio. That is the lot audio from semis because they got a full amazing arc set up, played through everything, and our friend Jared Thomas has a dope audio recording set up, and they played super well on semis day. Mm-hmm. And so he got this amazing audio recording, and we actually uploaded some of just his audio recordings after last season. So it's high quality, sounds great. You really hear the bass. Recommend it with headphones highly. And so I said, this audio's got to be out there. And I was like, wait a minute. The audio was...
But we didn't get a full video of Semi's lot.
Yeah. I have a semis video up too, and I didn't know they were going to finish the second chart when I was recording the video of it. So I didn't get the claw or like any of the really cool dense feature stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this really cool angled shot of the finals day lot, and you can see like the rain, it start raining in the middle of it and stuff, and I'm going to put this dope audio to it. So the problem is they don't use a Met, but I will say they were very close. The video from finals day and the audio from semis really, really closely lined up. There were a couple moments where they like were a little fast in this space, but they did it as a battery, so it was still clean. So I had to basically parse through, cut up the audio, shift it over like milliseconds, and I was kind of in a hurry because I wanted to get it out, and I just didn't look close enough at the last like minute and a half of it, which is really where you can kind of notice it a little bit. It's still pretty close. It's like 90% there for most of 2/3 of the video.
It's also pretty impressive that it's that close and they didn't use a Met either time.
Yeah. So it's very, very cool. The audio still sounds great. Just deal with like the couple milliseconds the audio might be off at random times for short periods. I do plan on correcting it. I have the project file still on my laptop. I'm going to go, because this deserves to have that audio line up really well with that video. I think it'd be a really cool video for the members, the staff, to just have that kind of thing.
Right.
So I will fix it, but the algorithm's kind of running with the video right now, so selfishly, YouTube gods are blessing us with that one, so we're going to let it go. I'll fix it on the back end and re-upload it down the road once it's correct. And the video quality should be a little better because I exported it wrong too. We're learning here. We're amateurs. Sorry.
Amateur hour. All right.
Right.
Let's get into
Let's do this.
So some of our predictions and how they went. Do you have the screen? I'm not even looking at your screen. Do you have?
Yeah, I'm sharing it with you, so you can pull it up, or you can just pull it up on your computer. That's fine too.
Yeah, I got you.
I want to point out before we dive in, and you and I both said this after the third night. If you look at our predictions and use the 2-night average after Brooks and Rapaki gave their scores, we're pretty close.
Yeah,
we're off by like a placement here or there. We're pretty close. And then Julie Davila came in and literally pulled a pin on a hand grenade and just dropped it on top of everything on finals night. I feel like the best way. Outside of Cavi's winning, she just jumbled everything up on finals night. So,
that's kind of the way it goes. That's also why they do the average for the trophies now. I heard some grumblings of some people like, what's this 3-night average stuff? Like, blah, 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 show of the night. Like, I would be totally down with that if there was more than one percussion judge on finals night. Like, I think what they used to do was 3 when it was just the last night. They had an on-field, P1, P2, and then percussion general effect, I believe. And they would use those 3 judges average for the drum trophy winner. So if that was the case, totally down. But if it's just going to be one judge per night, then no.
What if it was the same judge all 3 nights?
I mean,
that'd be better, I feel like, than a different one.
Maybe, but then I think you're still just leaning towards. I think having a different person on each night still kind of filters out bias a little bit, you know, because
everybody has different specialties. Every judge has different specialties, which is going to make their ears and eyes be drawn to hearing and seeing different things. I get it.
Like, even though I think the judges work to make themselves more well-rounded, they definitely have specialties that they're better at. Like, they were experts. Like, Jeff Brooks was a phenomenal snare drum player. Julie Davila's probably more front ensemble. Mike Leitsky, more front ensemble. They grow in those other areas, but they definitely have their strong suits. So,
yep. All right, so do you want to just go down our predictions versus what happened? I have some thoughts about various groups that we can go over and talk about the individual groups after we go over how things played out. So, and I'm sure you probably do too.
Just as a reminder, green is we got it right. The blue means that they are 1 off from what we predicted, 1 spot. And then on the 3-night and 2-night averages, if they have the asterisk, that means they tied. And I just put whoever finished higher that night on finals night or semis night above the other one. So,
yep.
So
we'll start at the top. We'll start at the bottom.
Yep.
So we have to look at the 2-night average to start at 15th place. So I had Music City in 15th. Evan had Madison. What actually happened is it was Spirit. Now, I will say, I said that grouping around there, if you look at the 2-night average, Music City, Spirit, Pacific Crest, those are all, and Scouts. Well, I got Scouts. I was way too high on them, but
Yeah,
The rest of
technically,
them,
I should have highlighted blue Music City for you, but whatever.
well, whatever. It's fine. Um, I, all those groups around there, the Spirit, Music City, Pacific Crest, those are the ones that I said I wouldn't be surprised if they were in that 15th place. And it just so happened they all ended up being shifted up one because I had Scouts in 12th, which they ended up in 17th, I believe. Yeah, you've got them right here, 2-night average, 17th. So we were close. We were close at that bottom area region. You had Scouts in 15, little 2 spots too high. We both had BK in 14. They were in 13th on.
They were in 13 on the 2-night average. The reason I still highlighted my Crossman is because they were technically higher after 2 nights. Crossman made finals in the percussion caption.
Yep.
So I kept it up there.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair from a scoring system. We didn't end up getting a whole lot of this right because of that 3rd night. So we'll take the wins where we can get them. So I'm okay with it. So he just explained that we were basically right on the BK thing, minus having to take Madison Scouts out of the equation. So we were 1 off there as well. Into 12th place, we can start looking at finals night. Blue Knights were in 12th because Blue Knights, good for them, as an aside, made finals again. So very cool. Congratulations to them. I know it's a big deal when you've been knocked out of finals is when you've been making it before. Then you get the core right back into it eventually. It's a very cool moment. I know, was it Chris Gary was telling us when he was at Spirit, they did that same thing. They broke back in and they said they felt like they won DCI basically. It's a super awesome feeling. So congratulations to all the staff and members involved in that core. And I guess we can take a second, honestly, as we go through this and just kind of talk a little bit more instead of doing it separately. You and I were talking about the Blue Knights a little bit in the car ride home from Indy.
Right.
And honestly, from where, I don't remember off the top of my head where they were finishing last season, but Osdemore's first season that back there arranging, I think something, what's his name? McAfee is the last name. His first name escapes me.
I'll find it.
He was the official caption head, something McAfee. So first year there, I know through the grapevine. Anytime you go to a group in that area of finishing and you have a new staff come in that hasn't been in the game for a bit in terms of running a program, like Osdemore had done it before, but it had been a while. So in terms of like attracting talent, it can be more difficult. So considering, I know they only had 7 snares, and that usually is indicative of maybe you had to go 7. And I'll just let that mean what it obviously means.
Yeah, I mean, working through a transition, a couple quick transitions back to back. It wasn't too long ago that Mike Jackson and team were there. Then they had another transition. Derek Shannon and team were there. And then another transition, and Jeff and them were there. And Jeff himself making the transition from judging back into arranging, which was pretty cool. He did reach out to us, and honestly, I think we're going to try to make it happen to have him on and just talk about what that was like. Going from judging to competing alongside all these groups. The caption head, Andrew McAfee, is there. So, it's probably just a lot of transition. I would say a lot of the kids that are auditioning for current ensembles probably didn't or don't know to look back too far at his previous work with arranging. So it probably just a lot of fresh green talent in general, and good for them, and the core to make it back into finals and to put together a product that was competitive and finals worthy.
Yeah. That's a group that I'm going to be very, very interested to see how they build on this year's immediate improvement in what the group was last year versus this year. I say that actually, I don't know where they were percussion-wise last year. I think it wasn't 12th. 13th. I think it was lower than that, wasn't it? I could be wrong. No, don't kill me if I'm wrong, because I should have done my homework, but we like to wing it here sometimes.
I'm definitely winging a lot of this. It's fine.
It's what we do. So BK, good for them. Very good. Very curious to see where that goes. You had, 3-night average, Blue Stars. We pretty much hit that one on the head. Also a new staff from previous season. They were solid. We saw them in the lot. Had some really pretty clean moments. The book was aggressive. It was playful at times. It was cool. It was a very, very cool, interesting book. I liked what they did as an alumni. We'll see where they can take that as well.
Pretty sick. They had those 2 tenor guys jump in.
Oh yeah, but for a second, I think one of them, the blonde kid, was a vet. He marches Infinity, I think, from Florida.
Yeah, you still got to learn the beats and
Oh
learn the
yeah,
drill and learn
it's
the
super
packet.
impressive.
I mean,
Super impressive. They had 2 come in with like 3 weeks left, learn the show and the beats very quickly. So kudos to them. Hard to do. Big ask. We had Colts in 10th. I got Colts correctly. You had them one place higher. You almost got them. You were too low on Mandarins. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Colts, freaking, we loved them all season. They were just clean and consistent.
Super solid.
And what do we say on here? Clean wins.
Yeah, actually, like one of my drum instructors from high school, he was in all 3 nights, and I remember him messaging me prelims night. He's like, "Damn, dude, Colts are clean." He's like, kind of set me back. Like I was not expecting that. And I was like, "Yeah, man, they're freaking throwing down, just super consistent."
And I would honestly relate the approach that the Colts are obviously taking to developing their drum line similar to what it looks like the Cavaliers are doing. No frills, no crazy exercises. Literally, just hammer the fundamentals. Teach a consistent approach on how to hit the drum, how to approach the drum, and just grind. Mm-hmm. I would say Crossmen are doing a little bit of that too. I know that guy Carlos Botello, I think is at Crossman is like a battery coordinator, snare tech. I don't know what his role officially is, but I saw on social media. I know he's big into fundamentals and all that stuff, and you can see it there as well. Clean wins, and the Colts had a great season because they were freaking clean.
I think, we'll talk more about clean. Yeah, I was too low on Mandarins. Ended up having Troopers in 9th. We both were slightly off. Actually, I should have Troopers blue on mine. I'm gonna adjust it.
Got to take the wins where we can get them, man. Can't be shortchanging us. The internet's going to be like, you guys are idiots.
That's fine.
We need all the blue and green on this sheet we can get.
So, yeah, Troopers in the 8th spot. Maybe.
9th spot.
I mean, or the 9th spot.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't speak a lot about it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in person. Obviously, too, we didn't see any of these on the field. So there's that. But
true.
I know Skojo kind of razzed us at one time, like, you don't get numbers on the lot. I'm like, well, that's true.
I mean, it's valid, but we also heard some of the tapes, and we have a lot of people we trust that were in the stadium watching with their own eyeballs and ears. So we have some kind of knowledge of how things went down, despite not being in the stadium. So give us a little credibility for that. Phantom in 8th. I had him in 9th. You had him in 7th. Just beating around the bush on that one. I don't know. I thought Troopers were better than Phantom pretty much all year. But I will say that's not to say Phantom was bad. They had a very solid year, considering, once again, new staff. We heard auditions were kind of slim. Like, it's
I did think
amazing
that
they finished
offered 8th. More variety.
Who did?
I thought that Phantom did offer maybe a little more variety.
From an arranging standpoint?
Not even just arranging, but just like environmentally and like what the drill was and the way that they were presented at times.
Yeah.
Not that that's directly what the focus of the percussion sheet is, but I mean, it is on the sheets. So
true. True. That's a valid point. It's a very valid point.
That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So this was that grouping that we mentioned in our predictions podcast: Troopers, Mandarins, Phantom. We were confident those 3 were going to be in those 3 spots. We just didn't know what the order was going to be. You can see in our predictions versus how it played out, they were the 3 in that 7, 8, 9 spot. And it could have just been show of the night type stuff. This level of consistency in this level of rankings and finishings, consistency can be an issue night in and night out. And it, like I said, whoever showed up and played cleaner, and it seems based on the judging, I mean, if you look, I think Mandarins were in 7th all 3 nights. I'm looking at the numbers to the right.
I don't know. They're not all in order, so it could be.
I think they were looking at it.
They probably were around.
They were in 7th all 3 nights, so good for them, man. Taha, TJ, Ben Piles, TJ being there for a week and a half or so, however long it was. Credit to the kids in the. I mean, they clearly showed up.
I'll talk about that show a little bit too at the end. Just the overall.
Moving up, let's see, 6th place, 2-night average, Crown, and as you can see, 3-night average, Cadets. So
Cadets were like tied for 4th with the blue coats after the first 2 nights, as you can see on there.
Mm-hmm.
Cadets were 4th in prelims, then I think 5th, and then 6th in finals. But ended up in 6th, which again, first year team with Lee Bettis, Travis Peterman, James Sparling, Jake Gall, and the crew. I'll talk about the cadets at the end a little bit more. Especially
we're going to deep dive on a lot of this stuff once we go through this. So you can see Evan and I predicted Crown was going to be in 6th. 2-night average, had that one right. As he pointed out, night 3, Julie Davila thought differently. Had him in 3rd on finals night, I believe.
Yes. Crown was 3rd on finals night. Yeah.
Crown got 3rd on finals night. I think they were in 5th or 6th the other 2 nights. So she had a much different opinion on them than the other 2 judges, Rapaki and Brooks. But so that's part of that hand grenade being dropped on everything after the second night. So we had them right, then they got them wrong in the end. Moving up, like you just talked about, 2-night average, Bluecoats cadets were tied 4th, 5th. 3-night average ended up being Crown Bluecoats tied 4th, 5th. We both had Bluecoats in 5th, so we actually got that.
The only reason I claim that one is 5th is because Crown was, even though they tied Crown Bluecoats,
Crown beat them on finals night.
On finals night,
so we counted that there, that we'd put Crown above that in the list
the tiebreaker
as the tiebreaker for our prediction.
I think that's technically how it works. If like groups tied for first, then whoever won finals night wins the tiebreaker. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I don't.
Someone correct us, but anymore. I think you're right. I think you're right about that. So, moving along, 2-night average. I had Blue Devils in 3rd. They were in 3rd. Then Julie liked them a lot more. Moved up to 2nd. They got 2nd on finals night, which was enough of a gap to bump them up to 2nd overall with a 3-night average. So we ended up getting that 1 spot off. You were 2 off because you had cadets beating them.
Mm-hmm.
Boston was in 2nd, which we had after 2 nights. Julie was not a huge fan. She put Boston in 5th on finals night, which is kind of wild to me considering they were in 1st from her in Allentown.
I don't know. The content box for that one was a little surprising.
Where'd she have them in content?
I think 4th.
I want to know where she had them in content in Allentown. Because
first.
They literally won Allentown.
They won the 2-night. Yeah, they won the 2-night spread, but
I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. If you're the same judge, you put them in 1st 6 days ago above everybody.
I mean, you really have to just have a pretty bad run, I guess.
But even if you have a couple extra ticks to 5th, same judge.
I don't know. I'd have to hear the tape.
I want to hear the tape, and that's one that I'm calling shenanigans on. I don't think Boston should have won after seeing everything in person, but Boston was not
5th.
They ended up getting 3rd, I believe, after all the averages.
With the average, yeah. Them being in 5th finals night was enough to drop their average from
they were better. They were better than Devs. Sorry, in my opinion, they should have beat Devs. So. I think that's. I will say here, I don't think she got that right.
I would say this caveat too, me saying that I think another group should have been over another group is not a slight at Group B. It's just that I thought that this group was better. That's it. Not that this group was worse. And that is I think that's the ultimate thing that's hard about judging too. They have to rank these people, and it can look like, oh, you didn't like what I did. It's no, that's not necessarily the case. I love what you did. I just liked what they did better.
A little more. Yeah. And that's what, just to reiterate, we were talking to the judge, Mike Davis. We called him in the car on the way home just to kind of talk about the weekend and everything. And he said something that we've said on here and a lot of others have. All these top groups are really good. Well, he calls them teams, which I think is awesome. He calls them teams, and they're all really good. And you're splitting hairs. You're splitting hairs to the max. So yeah, I don't agree with her call on Boston on finals night, but clearly she had her reasons to drop them 5 spots in a week, but it is what it is. So that means Devs barely squeaked out ahead of Boston. I think they were 0.017.
Well, if you look over there at the average,
I'm looking right now. I'm doing the math in my head.
19.4 to 19.38. 3.333.
Yeah, it's like 0.017 or something difference. Yeah. Stupid close on the averages. So very close. She made a call. It flipped him. But I'll also say something else, and this is something else Mike said. Outside of who won, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 1 week later, no one is going to care that the Cadets. So the Cadets drumline was phenomenal.
Like there was no drama for first.
No, it was going to be the Cavaliers thing. They've been winning all season, and we'll talk about them last here in a second. But it's like the Cadets drumline was great this year. 2 weeks from now, no one's going to be saying, "Hey, the Cadets got 6 this year." They're going to be saying, "Have you heard the Cadets drumline? They were freaking awesome." Same thing about Boston. No one's going to be talking about, "Oh, they only got 3rd." Like, you hear how insane some of those 4s were and how fast their book was. That's what people talk about. Nobody cares beyond who won. And I would argue a couple years later, nobody even cares who won. They're going to talk about how great the Cavaliers were this year, but they're also going to talk about Boston's book and the crazy density and quality, Cadets drumline with a first-year staff. We get into these weeds, and it's not really going to matter down the road. They're going to remember how good the groups were and the great things they did versus, oh, they only got 4th, man. It's trash.
They're going to have these sick, nasty YouTube lot videos immortalized forever.
Yeah. So, Cavaliers won. I think that is the right call. Sat in both their lots. Watched them on the stream. Well, we didn't watch them on the stream on Saturday, actually, but had eyes and ears.
We watched them on the stream several times.
We'd seen them a lot during the season, but
I was able
the quality
to hear
was just unrivaled.
The
consistency
tapes, for some people, the people in the running. I heard the tapes, and I mean, after I heard the tapes, I was like, "This was a no-brainer."
Yeah, it really was.
I thought. I was like, "All right, sweet."
Prelims night, after we heard some of Jeff's tapes, made perfect sense. We saw the recaps first.
People send me some things, so it's kind of.
We heard some of the tapes, and I'm like, he got it right.
Yeah.
He 100% got it right.
I thought it was easy.
Yeah, honestly,
like, okay. I mean, there's tough calls, but I was like, well, kind of spoke for itself.
Consistency, man.
Like, speaking of consistency, like, if I had to rank batteries, like, I don't feel like I am knowledged enough to accurately say, like, this front ensemble should be over this front ensemble. Maybe as, like, a package. Like, I can make some guesses, and sure. But if I was just ranking batteries, like factoring in both clarity and content, my order would probably have been Cadets, Boston, Cavaliers, Bluecoats, BD, Crown. Like if I was just ranking batteries from the lot, so whatever.
You're incorporating difficulty in like not necessarily clarity and consistency, but like what they're playing. Plus clarity and consistency.
Yeah,
like the whole package.
Incorporating both those things. How clean you are. I thought that by far the 2 cleanest drum lines I heard both days, semis and finals, were the Cadets and the Cavaliers.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
We watched all 3, and we're going to talk about Boston specifically here in a second. But let's talk about these top few groups and just give some overall thoughts, at least on the top 6. So I've got some notes just as like a guideline for me that I made before we did this on these top 6 groups.
Sure.
Cavaliers, phenomenal quality and consistency. The battery blend was second to none, man. The tuning scheme, they all hit the drum the exact same way. There was no doubt in my mind that if I went down that snare line or quad line, probably even the bass line, and I said, play your part by yourself, it was going to be very, very good. From a sound standpoint, tempo, rhythm, it just had that level of sameness across the board. It was
the one battery, well, I won't say the one, but definitely the most stood out. Just the 3 sections locked in, like just vertically. The balance, all 3 sections. And I told somebody this, when I was sitting there listening to them, like we watched the whole semis lot from beginning to end, like 8s on. And I think they tick like 2 things total. And
you can't say that about anybody else we watched.
No. And I was able to sit there and listen to that and just enjoy it. Like I wasn't waiting for ticks. Like I just was expecting them to play clean. And everybody else, I was just kind of like when's it gonna come?
And it usually did. And it usually did. And nothing was egregious. Nobody blew up in the lot. Nobody did anything crazy.
They just didn't have those.
They didn't.
So.
It was.
I mean,
we talk about that Atlanta lot for Boston last season. This lot, from a completeness of package and just pleasingness to the ear, as a battery trained person, and my ears are trained and everything, like it just felt good. It just felt good to sit in front of it. You knew it was going to be good from start to finish. And just some of those tap fives and rolls and just all the tap quality in the snare line and the quad line, the bass line balancing within splits, the unisons, like just the whole thing came together as an amazing, amazing package. And I think it was pretty obvious. And obviously their front ensemble was incredible. From everyone that I talked to that knows more than me about fronts, I could tell that it was something special going on up front. And everyone I talked to was like, yeah, they're just nasty. Just nasty. So, well-deserved. I think they got it right. All three judges had them in first, which speaks for itself. From there, Boston. So, absolutely crazy book. Crazy note density, speed, velocity,
definitely
aggression.
The most demand.
The most demand in terms of physical demand within the playing of the book
and just,
goes to Boston.
I would say chops required.
Yeah, that's what I mean, physical demand. The chops needed to play that book, and just the speed
quad
and density
arounds,
and
just everything.
And we talked about shout out to their quad line. Their quad line was probably the best quad line I saw all weekend. Just incredible.
Probably.
Two things. They ticked more than the Cavaliers. Nothing crazy, but just more little scratchies. And part of that is, as we mentioned in our predictions and our midseason check-in podcast, high risk, high reward book. The writing is extremely high risk, and I think they dried up the snare drums in terms of tuning for finals week.
Yeah, it
just seemed drier.
At least drier than what we saw them in person in Mason, for sure.
And a lot of groups dry the drums up as you get cleaner throughout the season, but it seemed
maybe that's in preparation for the dome.
Maybe it just seemed very exposed, and their quality was so high, and they were also at that level where it was such a complete sound, and you compound the super dry snare drum tuning. At least to my ears, it sounded very dry.
The tuning
any little tick
exposed. I loved it, but
any little tick just like slapped you in the face as an audience member. Now it's a very good place.
Punches,
it's a good place to be in as a battery, to be at that level of clarity and blend and quality where that happens. But due to the density of notes, like other less dense books, if you slightly tick an attack, you're going to be back in and you're going to be out for like a note or two. With the density of their book, you tick the attack, you didn't jump on the train fast enough. And you're out for like a count or two, and it's glaringly obvious, and it makes it very apparent when the tick is there. So, high risk, high reward, I think, is the best phrase to just describe them all season.
I think if someone asked me just like straight up, like who do you think was just the best drum line, I would still say Boston, but they weren't the best that weekend, if that makes sense. That's kind of a weird, like, if somebody's like, who do you think was the best? Like, I think the best drum line was Boston, but I would still
looking from all angles. I would probably
put Cadets from this weekend over them, just on what they were able to achieve from a clarity standpoint.
Yeah,
and Cadets content was also
high,
very solid.
They were not playing easy stuff at the Cadets this year. But yeah, to wrap up Boston, did I have anything else in the notes that I didn't already talk about? Nope, got it all. So they really did. When it was locked in, that was a powerful thing to stand and sit in front of.
It's unreal when it's
powerful.
When it's hidden.
When it was in there for long extended phrases, and there were long extended phrases where it was right in the pocket and they were zoned in. Clarity, quality, power. The book, the demand, it's just very punishing. Very, very punishing. So my thoughts would be, take like in the writing category. I know I'm like giving Colin McNutt advice right now. Who the hell am I? I would take 10% off the top in terms of note density and difficulty, maybe to allow for some more consistency. But I know he told us they made some small adjustments in terms of some of the fours and stuff going into finals week. But That's the only thing I could think of, man. Take 10% off the top and allow that clarity to be there 98% of the time instead of 92%, 93%, whatever the hell number I'm throwing out. That's what I would do in my humble opinion. But all right. Blue Devils, thoughts?
They always showcase things that you're like, man, that was really cool. Similar to like the Cavaliers, I think there are moments where when they're not presenting themselves in front of the judge, it's like, all right, let's get to the next thing, like the next dope thing. And then they kind of have their big exposed moment where they are like playing the double stroke roll and like kind of falling out and adding back in. They're doing the 360 backstick, which we said all season was hard. And then like when I saw it in the lot, I was like, yeah, it's still hard, and it still really sounds hard. Just a little hard.
Yeah, I was surprised they never changed that.
They're another one too. They're, you know, like when Scott was on here, it's like, you know, we designed the show to be the best show, to be the best Blue Devils show, not to necessarily win percussion. So that was, I will say, I'm surprised that moment made it the whole season. But
I was gonna say, I thought because you know they know clean wins. They've watered stuff in the past that didn't work out and the members didn't get in time. I was shocked, honestly, that it was still there.
Yeah,
but
they
a lot of other
obviously
stuff
know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, they've won so many drum titles and so many gold medals and stuff, like,
which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I want to back up for a second. I forgot to say one thing about the Cavaliers. You mentioned about the moments where they're unjudgeable, so to speak, in the new system. They're playing some more. They're inaccessible by the judge to read effectively. They're kind of taking the foot off the gas pedal in terms of writing. I want to point out, and I have watched their book now, editing, adjusting that audio with the video, like I said, a lot of times. There's more nuance to some of those easier parts than you would think on a first read. There's ensemble achells and dechells happening throughout that in the easier stuff that you have to pay attention to. Secondly, you said this weekend, double stops are hard. Not only are double stops hard, playing many of them in a row with accents and taps throughout at a faster tempo and keeping them getting that pop to them, they've got whole segments, especially at the end of their third movement, where it's just double stops for days. Fast eighth note double stops with accents pulsed in there, moving out to the edge, back to center, keeping them popping that whole time. That seems like an easy phrase, but if you think so don't write off, oh, they're just playing this really simple little big monkey arm section. Like, there's more going on in some of those areas. It doesn't have to be Note City to have some difficulty to it or some challenge to it. I just want to put that out there. So, back to Blue Devils for a sec. The bass line was phenomenal.
Best bass line of the summer.
Their bass line was absolutely incredible.
Quad line. They ripped that feature. They're on like the back hash. I'm like, come forward.
Yeah, let us hear you.
I mean, you can still hear it because they're just freaking wailing.
But their bass line was nasty. The quad line was solid. The snare line, I thought had really good quality when it was in there. I just thought they ticked a little bit.
Yep.
You know, that was the name of the game. Like, Cavies won due to consistency. Boston ticked a few too many times. Blue Devils ticked a few too many times. And that really usually is what it comes down to in these top 4 or 5 groups every summer. Whoever ticks less is going to win.
Well, I was having a conversation with someone else about that earlier today, and I am thrilled that that's the way it is. Like, somebody could listen to this and say, you're just talking about who ticked the most or who ticked the least or who ticked. It's like, well, yeah, how else?
How do you separate
At the end of the day, how else do you separate it if you're only going to rely on design and what's on the page and not how it's being played? Well, then you're just really going to wing it and hope for that the panel likes what you write, not how the kids play it. And I like that it's still up to the members. Like, it's ultimately in their hands, not the designer's hands. Like, yeah, design is obviously a heavy part of it and variety and content. But like, at the end of the day, the kids should be rewarded for like playing hard because it's hard.
It's tough to run around a football field and hit the drum at the same time for 12 minutes. I mean, it really is. And if you don't take that into account, okay, McIntosh, Cavaliers, Scott Johnson, and who's the guy that writes the rest of it?
Dave Glide.
Dave Glide, Colin McNutt, Mike Jackson, Tom Rarick, Lee Bettis. Who's not going to write a Sanford-worthy book almost every year? Like, if you're just making it a design contest and you don't want to talk about ticks, again, they're all writing Sanford-level books almost every year at the top. So then it's literally like
the great divider.
Then literally the winner is determined by the biases of the 3 judges that get put on the panels that year. You have to talk about ticks. You have to.
Even my 2 summers that I marched, like, it's like, oh, why didn't we do as well in 2010? It's like, well, we ticked more.
Yep.
Like, I mean,
so we got to get over this fear of like calling ticks out. It's part of the game. It's how you separate these top groups because they're all playing Sanford quality stuff almost every year.
Yeah, like I obviously respect the shit out of all these groups, but I mean, if we're gonna rank people, I mean, that's the way you do it.
Yep. Okay. We talked about devs for a few.
Blue coats, crown.
Blue coats. Let's do coats next. I thought this is one of Rarick's best books he's probably ever written.
Dude, I love so this will be kind of in tandem too with Boston. Like they obviously took a lot of risk. I love when the groups take risk. I thought Blue Coats took a lot of risks just from a percussive ensemble, a drum corps ensemble as well. A lot of that stuff they were doing with the modulation and the bump chart.
The timing and demand is unreal.
You know, a lot of the little nuance in there too, where, you know, they're playing a triplet roll and he wants to like push it at the end. It's like, well, I don't really want to quite change the hand speed to a 16th note. That feels a little abrasive. So we'll just make it a 8th note 7. Like, I feel like, and that's just a random example, but I feel like he does that stuff so much. It's like, I just want to push the metric a little bit faster. And it just like surges the end of the phrase, And I love that stuff that he does.
Yep. Big fan of
his
what they
arranging
played.
is some of my favorite.
It really is, almost every year. We said in early July when we reacted to him, they had the vehicle to win for a second year in a row. It all came down to, could they clean it? That was what we said about the Blue Devils. We said about the Blue Coats. And unfortunately, neither one of them could get it there. They couldn't get to the mountaintop. And that happens more years than not, honestly. Like for most groups, like you just don't get perfect or you'd win or you would have won if you're in one of these top groups with these arrangers writing these crazy books. And I thought they had really good moments. I thought there was a lot of clarity when you watch them play. It's just they just ticked more than BD or Boston or
another disclaimer. Every group that makes the top 12 has a ton of clarity.
Oh yeah.
So
Blue Stars had phrases where there was a lot of clarity going on. Like it's just.
But I mean, we're splitting hairs. We're talking about they just tick more. It's like it's not like egregious. It's just it is what it is. So.
Yep. That's the name of the game,
that is not
man.
a slight against anyone. I mean, I ticked in groups that were second place, like on quarters or whatever. I mean, at Rhythm X,
every drum trophy winning drum line ever, I guarantee, has had a tick or two somewhere on the field in finals night.
Whole reason I didn't win a gold medal in indoor is because we ticked more.
There you go.
And Pulse was really clean.
Pulse was very clean that year. All right, cadets. One of the best batteries of the weekend. Amazing first season for Lee. I thought the book Lee wrote was great. They were one of my favorite shows, honestly, of the summer. Felt like drum corps. Speaking of that, I thought it was fucking amazing, pardon my French, that they did retreat in the traditional uniforms.
Yeah, that was
sick. I wished I would have been in the stadium just to hear the crowd reaction when that badass cadets block in traditional uniforms comes out on the field and no one knew it was coming.
Plus, like, there were some funny pictures that came about it from like throwbacks of like cadets and Cavaliers interaction treat. Like, just I know some of them were on Drum Corps Coffee Shop, just throwback people recreating funny pictures, which was awesome because the Cavaliers uniform is also very traditional-esque this year. The cadets were great, just wonderful consistency throughout. Their quad line was nasty as well. I just really enjoyed listening to them play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kudos to the team. I already kind of went through that spiel, but the one group we did skip over on the 3-night average, though, was Crown.
Oh, you're right. Let's address that real fast. I don't know how I did that. We'll do it while we talk about them. So let's talk about Crown. 3-night average. They were in 5th place ahead of Blue Coats prelims night from Brooks. They were in 6th from Rapaki. Yeah, looks like 6th. on
they
semis
were.
night.
I think they were 6th after
2 nights.
2 nights.
The 2-night average had him in 6th. We had him in 6th, and then Julie bumped him up to 3rd on finals night, which pulled him up to tied for 4th place with the Bluecoats. Yeah. So I do not agree with that. I thought the Bluecoats were definitely better as a percussion section than Crown's this year. Crown had an. I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that what Mike and Kevin Shaw did with Michael Klesch for the ensemble far exceeded my expectations, and just kind of like,
oh yeah,
there was like, how's this gonna work? Like the styles are just like, very different.
It worked.
And it was great.
I thought it worked well.
Especially like, the music analysis box loved it too. The MA judge. Obviously the Crown Brass was nasty. They won all 3 nights too, I'm pretty sure. But just that marriage worked out a lot better than a whole lot better than I was.
It was a very big question mark going into the summer for a lot of people. It's like, who's gonna give? And they made it work. And the package.
And I would say too that even the percussion section, especially the battery, overachieved what I was expecting on a year 1 for them. Just having very little vets. I don't think any.
None.
In the battery.
There was nobody from the battery from last season that was in it.
Just like a style shift. I'm sure a lot of those people that were in that drum line have probably never marched East Coast drill like that. It's kind of just a run and gun style.
I would say their battery lost the most visible weight over the course of the summer out of anybody else. They were a lot skinnier at the end, and if you watch their drill, it makes sense.
DCI P90X.
Yeah. I will say I was concerned going into Allentown week after Atlanta. Rapacki had him in 8th in Atlanta. I watched the regional. I was very, very concerned about where they were going to be at the end. And I did think 8th was a little harsh, but again, not on the field, watching on the stream, grain of salt. I don't know. I literally texted Jared Andrews, the battery coordinator, I think early finals week, because I watched Allentown, which was a massive improvement for the drumline over Atlanta. And then I saw a clip randomly he posted from a rehearsal day at the beginning of finals week that sounded pretty freaking good, if I'm being honest. I texted him. I was like, dude, I don't know what you're feeding those kids the last week and a half, but it's working. You guys sound a whole lot better than a week ago.
They just started feeding them.
And this is Jared Andrews in a nutshell. His response was, I love this game. That's all he sent back. I was like, that's amazing. They were grinding. You could tell they were just he was in his element. The kids were just going after it. They were working their butts off, and I think it paid off. I think they improved a drastic amount the last 2 weeks of the season, which is amazing to see as a fan.
I did miss the CMFC vocal. I don't know if they had it in.
They had an East Coast vocal. There was an East Coast vocal.
I'd rather have the CMFC in there.
Well,
East Coast.
Well, I'll let Jared know if he might listen to this. I don't know if he'll listen this far into it.
That
but
one next year. So.
Yeah. So I thought, like you said, exceeded expectations. The music worked very well with the brass. I was a mostly fan of the show, big picture, and the drum line, based on, I think they were younger on average, no vets, kind of less experience than a Crown drum line might have year in and year out, but they exceeded my expectations. The writing was great. I enjoyed it. I watched all their book in the final slot, and it was a fun experience. It was a fun experience. The aggression, the energy that was there was cool.
To kind of like run through my actual placements, obviously Boston did not win. So they ended up 4th. I think they had just kind of some issues.
There's a
throughout, like technical issues, timing penalty, generator thing. Actually, I don't think they got the timing penalty. I think they were graced by having an intermission afterwards, so it didn't affect the show.
I heard that.
But I mean, I got 3 of them. 3 of my picks right: Crown, Mandarins, Cavaliers. 3 others: BD, Troopers, Blue Stars were one off. Obviously, BD won. Bluecoats, I think this was their 3rd silver medal in a row, maybe. And then I think I looked.
I think you're right.
I think I was looking earlier, and BD has now won 10 out of the last 15 seasons.
Holy crap.
Dude, that's That's a stat right there.
That is unbelievable.
So, yeah, and they haven't finished lower than second since 2006.
Holy
which they were third. And then they were fourth in 05. And then second, first, second, third. Yeah, like all the way back to 2000. So it's like,
yeah.
It's pretty wild, man.
So let's run down a couple of these other groups very, very briefly. I want to talk about Troopers for a minute, the elephant in the room there. I want to talk about, Mandarins, Phantom. Phantom, I thought, had an Phantom should be giddy.
Brand new staff.
Brand new staff to finish 8th. Brand new staff. I thought
5th overall, or no, 7th overall, 8th in drums. Wow.
Very good job. That was another group we were watching going into the season. Great job to them. We are going to react to them. Reactions coming still from Mandarins, Phantom, and Blue Stars over the next week or so after this podcast comes out. We're also going to do those sit-downs with the arrangers. So, like, Mac has already said he's going to come watch Cavies with us. Rarick said he's going to come watch Bluecoats. Jared Andrews is going to watch Crown with us. Lee I think, said he'd do Cadets. If hopefully we'll text Rudy and he'll do it again this year for Blue Devils. So expect that to come out over the next month as well. All right, real quick. Troopers had a phenomenal season. Probably the best percussion finish. Is 9th the highest they've ever gotten? I'd have to go back and look at the record books, but it seems high. I could be wrong. They might have gotten higher in some years past, but
I would say also, like, obviously, congrats to Mandarins. I loved that show.
Very cool show.
Probably one of the most visually pleasing shows of the summer. The use of props. Obviously played and moved really well. Spun, danced, tossed very well. I think Mandarins probably also benefited from Vanguard not being around. Maybe getting some brass guard players that would have maybe normally auditioned for Vanguard, maybe gotten spots for Vanguard. Just, the talent trickles around. Probably trickled over to BD as well. So, yeah, these great performers and players, drummers, dancers, they have to go somewhere. But kudos to Mandarin. I think definitely the highest they've ever placed. Maybe the highest the Colts have placed. I'm not sure if 9th is theirs. But
they scored the highest. They scored the highest in core history, 90.
I did
they
see
broke
that
90.
was the first time they broke 90, which was awesome.
Very cool for them. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens to multiple cores memberships when Vanguard is back in the game.
I definitely feel like there's going to be a lot less shifting around this summer than was last summer.
When you say shifting around, you mean at the end of the season the placements, or what do you mean?
Just like staffs. Like, last year there was so much staff turnover and shifting
that's a good
around.
point. That's a very good point. Who do we think is going to leave?
I don't know looking down the list who's going to make changes.
I couldn't see.
BD's not. Bluecoats,
Cavies,
Boston, Cavies,
Boston Cadets.
I would be
Crown
for sure. Crown's not.
Mandarin's not. Phantom's not. Troopers aren't. Colts definitely aren't. Blue Stars or Crossmen maybe would be the only two.
I don't know. Blue Stars still is just a first year. It's like a first year group. I would say that it's probably consistent for a lot of groups next year just because they'll have less changeover.
That's a very, very good point. I hadn't thought about that. I bet we don't see a lot of movement in terms of staffs moving around, which actually is going to make next season even more fun.
Caption.
Yeah, in the percussion world. So yeah, I'm all talked out. I think we hit everything we wanted to. I loved this summer. Probably one of my favorite summers as a fan and just covering this stuff and following it like we have since we started this podcast. A lot of battles going on within pods of groups in percussion world. How the overall scores were so close going into finals week after Allentown. We just didn't know what the hell was going to happen. Outside of being pretty positive the Cavaliers were going to win drums, we didn't know what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if Cavaliers lost a show in percussion from San Antonio on.
Allentown.
No, I don't think they lost from San Antonio on. Well, I don't count Allentown because it was two nights. But
they won their day of Allentown.
Yeah,
I get you're right. You're tomato kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of knowing pretty positively they were going to win, I didn't know where really. The predictions were all over the place from us. You can see after the third night, got a lot of stuff wrong within even those groupings. The overall stuff really didn't shake out. We knew BD was probably going to win. We hoped Boston would pull it out, but that didn't happen. So it's a great summer. It's a great summer for a lot of groups. I think a lot of groups are going to leapfrog stepping stone from this into an even more successful season next year with staff consistency and member consistency. So I think we can look forward to an even more fun, higher achieving summer in 2024. So you got anything else?
I'm done.
All right. Facebook, Instagram, subscribe, like, comment. Are we dumb? Are we smart? Do you like us? Do you hate us? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Watch us, listen to us on podcast services if you want. Be on the lookout for the last few reactions. Like I said, be on the lookout for those sit downs with the arrangers of these groups, watching the lot or the show or whatever percussion ensemble videos we can find, breaking it down, going over the design process. Really enjoyed doing those last year. Looking forward to them again this year. And hit the join button, patreon.com, and we will see everybody in the next one.
Peace.